Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Radio Networks on Saturday, March 29th, 2014. This is episode 1069. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is the best way to buy and manage domain names. It's simple, honest, and easy to use. For 10% off your first purchase, go to hover.com/TechGuy3 and enter the offer code TechGuy3. And by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster, easier, and cheaper. Post your job to 50-plus job boards with one click. Try ZipRecruiter for free for 4 days right now at ZipRecruiter.com/TechGuy. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TechGuy. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile from Citrix. Try ShareFile today for a 30-day free trial. Go to ShareFile.com, click the microphone, and enter Tech Guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, smartphones. I guess we could talk about dumb phones. The internet, home theater. Did I mention the internet? Digital photography and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Let me pull that phone a little closer here. So I'm going to take some calls in a little bit. Heather Hammond, the phone ranger, ready to answer your call. Get you on the air here. If you have a question or a thought or a suggestion, hello, HH.
Good morning.
Back from Africa.
Is it still morning?
It is. It is indeed. So I hold in my hands. Boy, this is really bad news. There's always a new phone now, isn't there? You can you get a great new phone and you get excited about it, and about 3 months later, a better one comes out. It's got to be frustrating. I'm thinking particularly of Kim Schaefer, who was here filling in for you, because I recommended she get the beautiful, the elegant, the stylish HTC One. I think she was a former iPhone user looking to go to Android.
She loves that phone.
Yeah, but here's the new one.
Uh-oh.
I feel terrible.
I'm sure she's still happy.
Shh, don't tell her, okay?
Okay, let's not tell her.
Yeah, the HTC One. Again, what do you think? I wish they'd come up. Why do they call it the HTC 2? Why not? Just, it's another one. The new HTC One is here.
Part 2.
Part 2. Forcing us tech guys and gals to say things like the new HTC One or the HTC One version 2. The internal numbering is the M8. Last year's model was the M7, so this is the M8. And you know what they did? It's funny. Unlike movies, where a sequel is usually worse, right? Jaws 2, a shadow of Jaws 1. The Matrix 2 and 3, worse and worse. It's hard to make a sequel that's better than the original. When it comes to movies, it's exactly the opposite in technology. Software is usually better and better and better as they do revisions. Hardware too. And this one, they took all the rough edges, the things I wasn't crazy about with the HTC One, and they fixed it. But they kept the things I really liked. A beautiful screen. This screen, Apple made a big deal about its Retina displays. The idea of Retina is the dots are so tiny, the resolution is so high on their screens, whether it's their phones or their tablets or their laptops, that you can't see them. That's what they call a Retina display. They made up the term. It's their term, Retina display. Well, typically anything over 300 dots per inch is pretty good. That's a laser printing quality, This is 441 dots per inch. You can put your eyes right next to the thing and you can't see any dots. It's a very high resolution display, gorgeous display. 5 inches, which I think is just about right. 4 is too small. 6 is probably a little too big. This is the Goldilocks size, just right. Because you can fit it in your pocket, you can hold it in your hand, but it's big enough, especially with a great resolution like that, to look at web pages and not feel too cramped, to take pictures and so forth. They've fixed a few of the things I didn't like about the original HTC One. One of the things that I don't like is the way that these companies over-customize Android, In fact, a lot of times I think people buy the Google Play editions, and you can get a Google Play edition of this phone too, because then it's pure. And admittedly, HTC's customized it quite a bit with their Sense UI, user interface. And then this is a Verizon version. The Verizon just ladles the lard on. There's a whole folder of Verizon stuff I wish I could get rid of. And that's the problem. You can't get rid of the carrier customizations or the manufacturer customizations. You can't revert it to just plain Google without hacking the phone a little bit. But HTC has made Sense, I think, a little bit less offensive. It's not that it was offensive before, but it's they've done some things. For instance, I didn't like the fact that they didn't have the little Android menu items at the bottom, the home, the back, the recent items. They put that back. I think they listened to people. They still have a kind of a low quality camera on it. They say it's ultra pixel, but it's only 4 megapixels. And you might say, well, gosh, I had my digital camera 5 years ago had more megapixels than that. It's true. But for a lot of what we do with camera phones, that's plenty of resolution. And one of the advantages of it is it's much better in low light. They've added a second sensor, so it does something really weird. You can you can select focus. This is very strange. I think it takes multiple pictures. I'm not sure how it does it, but you can take a picture with something in the foreground in focus and say, no, I meant for the background to be in focus, and you can change it after the fact because they have a depth sensor on it. Funnily enough, the front camera is 5 megapixels. It's better. HTC has continued to do their great photography stuff. They call them Zoes, where it takes a movie and stills, and you can they automatically put them together into highlights and stuff. I think they do a nice job with that. And the Sense isn't as annoying as it was. This is a beautiful phone. Some say David Pogue in the formerly New York Times, now Yahoo, said this is the phone to beat this year, and he may be right. The Galaxy S5 is coming sometime later this year. We'll see a new iPhone, I'm sure. But I have to say, if it's available on Verizon, T-Mobile, and I can't remember, it's 3 out of the 4, is it AT&T and T-Mobile? Check your carrier. And at least play with it, because it is really pretty. No removable battery, although battery life's pretty good. They added a little capacity to the last year's version. And this year also adds an SD card, which is nice because it's only 16 and 32 gigabytes of storage, which, 32 is probably enough for a lot of people. But if you want to put a lot of music on there, you could put 128 gigabyte worth of extra storage in the SD card there. That's great for music or movies or photography because your camera will take pictures to it. Beautiful phone, I have to say. The best thing about the HTC One they kept, which was the fact that, and I don't know why others haven't done this, dual speakers in the front, left and right. And the sound quality is quite good. I don't know why others haven't done that. Because that's where you're sitting, is in front of it, right? So especially if you're watching a movie, to have the speakers, on the left and the right of the screen, it's just kind of a natural way to do it. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you about this just because it just came in. The new HTC One. We're waiting for the Galaxy S5 to drop. I know I won't like it. And I'll tell you, one of the main things, Samsung's really over-enhanced it. They put so much stuff on there. But the one thing I really can't get over is the fact that you can't, they want you to use their voice dictation, Samsung's voice dictation, S-Voice, instead of Google's. And it's not as good. And you can kind of, get to Google's, but it's not as easy. It's not right there in the front. And that bothers me. The HTC at least supports the traditional Google swipe up from the bottom to get the Google voice dictation, which I like. We have some good phones out there. A new Moto X is supposedly coming from Motorola this summer. That was my favorite phone until this one came along. I don't think the S5 is going to be a killer. We'll see what Apple does with the iPhone 6, the 5, or whatever they call it. The 5S, the current iPhone is very, very good, I think. But it's still a smallish screen. A smallish screen. Anyway, we can talk about phones, certainly. We can talk about computers, I guess. Do people still buy those? I mean, this is a quad-core I think 2.7 gigahertz processors. 4 2.7 gigahertz processors in a phone. I don't know. This is as powerful as most desktops. And 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, for a phone, this is pretty heavy duty. 8888 asks, Leo, we have a great website, techguylabs.com. You can go there and see show notes from previous episodes. We have put up an article for people who are using XP. You know, we're rapidly approaching. A week from Tuesday will be the last update for Windows XP. We have an article on how to continue using XP safely. And I know you know because you listen to the show, but you might want to share that with friends and family if they're going to stick with XP. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, your call's next. So, did you get your Bottle Rocket, what is it called? Bottle Rock tickets yet?
I think the lineup is atrocious.
What? You're not an outcast?
I didn't get a chance to ask if you wanted coffee.
Yes, please. Muchas gracias. Instant. You see that? It's instant coffee, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to the amazing John Slanina. No. You have to have friends in high places. So you're not going to go to Bottle Rock, huh?
Okay, so here's what they did. They put, they sprinkled all the good bands throughout the days.
You got to go for all 3 days now.
So it's like, I got to see Gin Blossoms if I want to see Outcast. I got to see if I want to see.
Yeah. So you're not going to go?
I don't think so.
So Lisa and I got 3-day VIP this time.
You did?
And
I'm sorry.
we did an Airbnb. We got a little place in Napa just up the street. I was going to say you could sleep on our couch, but I guess you're not going.
I guess I'm just too picky. There's this gal from, my day job who's like, well, I've seen them so many times. I would go if it were free, but she's super picky
You look like
all the
that
time.
woman. Do you ever watch episodes? Gosh, that's a great show. It's on Showtime, and it's about network television, so it's really funny. It's about a pair of British writers who come to America, who talked into doing a sitcom in America, and it's a horrendous experience. But that one of the network, number 2s that read scripts, she's perennial. Everything is, oh my God. And she's like, she must be, the poor actress, the whole time, she's like,
everything that I come at is going to be from a picky standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's actually, in my opinion, the best person. I just love her. Every time she did. Anyway.
Hilarious.
Anyway. They did kind of cut down on the crapware on this. Mophie, there was a Mophie case for the last HTC One, so I think they will. But I don't, they've added 300 milliamp hours battery. God, it's beautiful, isn't it? Just an elegant, this is the blink feed, which they have improved considerably. It's a very fast phone, too. What could I show you? Oh, the camera. So there was a bug, but it was a bug in LastPass that was killing my camera. The camera actually is pretty good. I'll tell you what, I'll pull some pictures up. I've been taking pictures. I'll put them on the big screen so you can see what they look like. And I could use this. That was for selected photos. Oh, this is a Zoe thing, which is great. They do little mini movies. There's the bacon frying up in the pan. He brings home the bacon, fries it up in the pan, and never ever lets you forget he's a man. I think it's a decent camera. This is my new doors. Oh, see, now it took about 80 images. It has a very fast. I gotta delete some of those. Oh, is this the Gin Blossoms? This is my reaction. You don't want to see the Gin Blossoms, huh?
It's a good song, but can I say one-hit wonder,
Okay. But, the great thing about going to a concert with a one-hit wonder is when they play the one hit, you feel so gratified because you've been listening to all this stuff you never heard before. It's not so great. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm trying to talk Heather into going to our local music festival that's coming up, and that's one of the groups, the Gin Blossoms. But one hit, that's it. Honesty.
Yeah.
So enough of that. Enough about that. I will talk about Microsoft in a little bit. They did announce this week. On Thursday, they announced Microsoft Office for iOS for the iPad and Android, and for Android. So they did it a little differently on the two platforms. But I have to say, very, very nice. I mean, I don't know if this is something that's been keeping you from buying an iPad. I guess if you had to have Office, that could be it. But it's Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint. I mean, I don't know how. It's hard to get too excited about it, but it's there, and they did a very nice job. The ribbon isn't too big. It's nice. Nice. Those boys at Microsoft, they do nice stuff, I think. HH, Phone Ranger. Hello. Should I talk to somebody? What do you think?
Definitely. Let's talk to Ronald in L.A.
You got a full board here. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You're so fast. Hi, Ronald. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hello. Oh, we got to push the button. That's there. Oh, hi, Ronald.
Thanks, Leo, for pushing the button.
There you go.
Anyway, I've read some of your stuff on extending the XP, and I have a Dell Dimension 2400, and I've had it for the past 10 years, and it has been excellent to me.
Yeah, and the truth is computers don't really wear out. Moving parts do, so the hard drive will, but that's cheap and easy to replace.
Right. However, I'm considering going to the Dell 3000 series because I'm on a fixed income, and the least expensive one seems to have everything I need. And I needed your input in your opinion, on that particular model of Dell.
Yeah, Dell, still like most or many computer manufacturers, with the one exception of Apple, makes two levels of computer. They know that people have limited funds to spend on a computer, so they'll make I'll call them, for want of a better phrase, consumer version and a professional version. The pro computers are, more expensive. They're $1,000 and up. They are made with better components. The screens are higher resolution. They have touch, which on Windows 8 is a nice thing to have. But Dell understands that there are people who are on limited budgets, and Dell really also sells a lot of computers to business, and not all businesses want to buy the top of the line for all employees. So they also make a less expensive line. In this case, they call them the Inspiron. And, these are not super cheap. They start at $500 for the tower, and then you still have to buy a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse and all that. I think that's not bad. The way they save money on the lowest end, the $500 one, is by putting a kind of artificially dumbed down Intel chip, the i3, in it. But it's not a bad chip. If you could afford $50 more, you might want to get the i5. That's kind of the sweet spot. They both have Windows 8.1, the latest version of Windows. They both have 8 gigs of memory. They both have a terabyte hard drive. That's all good. You are going to have to buy a monitor with this, right? I guess you could use your old monitor.
Leo, I was actually considering there's even a less expensive model that Dell is advertising that's $329, and me being a vet, I even get a discount on that. And surely it doesn't come with a monitor. I would spend my money on the monitor more so than that.
Yeah, and you're getting a desktop, so you don't care about touch so much. You're going to use it as you use XP right now with a mouse.
Correct.
What they give up on a 3, there's not much margin on the computer with that cost, right? So there's not a whole lot of money in it for them. They have to squeeze costs down as much as they can. So they're going to put less RAM in it. They're going to make it up by, charging you extra for the monitor. But Dell, I trust Dell. I don't think they sell bad stuff. The market's pushing them to sell $350 computers. I personally feel like when you buy a computer that inexpensive, you're potentially buying. It'd be one thing if it was just slow. Like I'm gonna take 15% slower, and I'm gonna spend 30% less money. That's fine. Slow is fine. We can all wait a little longer. We're all in such a hurry. What I worry about is the quality of the components. But I think 4 gigs of RAM. What's the model that you're looking at?
It here doesn't exactly say. It just says the new Inspiron Small Desktop 3000 series. Oh, here we go. Fourth generation Intel Pentium G3220. Is that significant?
Is it an i3? Probably it's an i3. A lot of times they put AMD chips in there, and the good news about Dell is they stick with Intel. That's fine. i3 is an example of slower, not worse.
I understand.
So you're saving money, you know, but not time. But that's fine. It's not that much slower. It's still faster than your XP machine. In fact, what you're going to see is your XP machine is going to seem like a slug compared to this, even the lowest end. So I think that's fine. You're right. Spend the money on a nicer monitor. The bigger the monitor, the better. I think it's 4 gigs of RAM. Is that right?
That's 4 gigs of RAM and 500.
500. So half the storage. But 500 gigabytes of storage is tons. It's plenty. I say go for it. I say go for it, Ronald. Understanding that you have that limitation, and the key point I'm making is less expensive sometimes means lower quality components. In this case, I think it's fine. They're giving you an Intel processor, that's good. They're giving you enough memory and enough hard drive, that's good. I think you're fine.
That is why I may not call you all the time, Leo, but I call you, and you always have the answers when I need them.
Thank you.
One quick other, if you can, and I'll take this offline,
all right.
And that is transferring bookmarks from my Dimension to the new computer.
You use Internet Explorer, probably, yes?
I use Mozilla Firefox.
Ah, good. Mozilla Firefox has built-in bookmark syncing. So they bought Xmarks, which does this some time ago, and that's a very nice feature. So just look in your settings on Mozilla, and you should have bookmark syncing. If you don't, you can export your bookmarks, put it on a USB key, and import it into the new. You won't lose any of your bookmarks.
Gotcha.
Always careful. Thanks, Ron. Always be careful about copying too many of your settings from your old machine. This is a chance to leave 1999 behind. Let's bring it up into the future. And so don't copy. You know, they have a file and settings transfer. You know, wizard. They call it something different these days, but I don't generally recommend that. You're going to keep the old computer. You're not going to throw it away yet. Copy stuff over as needed, but be careful about copying too many of the settings. I like to start all over again. When you pay less, it's noisier, it's slower. As long as it's not junkier, I'm okay with it. And I think Dell is reliable in that regard. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. LastPass bought Xmarks, sorry. So the one... was driving me crazy. I've actually reset this phone 4 or 5 times trying to fix... The camera was crashing. It was very frustrating. And I thought, oh, maybe this is a lemon. Maybe I have to bring it back. Let me figure it out. The internet to the rescue. So I would launch the camera and go, boom. And of course, the first thing you do is you just go out and search M8 camera crash or something like that. And I find a lot of entries with people, similar issues. I thought, oh boy, this could be a problem. And but every time I reset it, it worked fine until I installed my app. So then I thought, ooh, maybe there's an app I'm installing. So I took any app that affected the camera off. No, that didn't fix it. Then I found a post, and I've posted it on LastPass's site too, so people know. Turns out this new feature in LastPass, which I love, it's an Android autofill capability. So LastPass works kind of like it does on the desktop, where when you are logging in a new site, LastPass will offer the password and fill it in for you, which is really convenient. But it has a bug in it, and it was crashing the camera. So, but fortunately, it's a very easy fix. You just disable that autofill feature in the camera. But and I'm sure LastPass will fix it. But it's one of those things where it's a new phone and it's a new feature in software, and so that neither company really had a chance to test it, and that makes sense. So that's a little tip. Anybody using LastPass? Hey, Scott Wilkinson.
Hey, Leo Laporte. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, well, we could talk about... I just attended a webinar on HDMI 2.0.
Oh, great.
And it's kind of confusing.
I wouldn't mind talking about the idea of cable upgrades. Do you really need them?
Well, you mean in terms of HDMI or this is the first time I've ever heard. I guess USB, as they upgraded the standard, you got new cables, but only in the most recent one, USB 3. But you don't hear a lot about people saying, "Oh, we got a new technology. It has the same connector, but if you want new features, you got to upgrade the cable." It's not the case in HDMI.
Yeah, so I think that's a good one to talk about. Yeah,
sure. No problemo.
Live on pay-per-view, HTM1 versus HTM2. A battle to the bitter end.
Sunday.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that. That's good.
Yes, UJ in the chat room has it exactly right. HDMI 2.0 is not about the version number. It's about the list of features, which it is. If you... somebody asked me, I think I did in the chat room, about they have some monoprice cables, 30, 40 feet long HDMI cables. That's kind of pushing the length, unless it's a Redmere cable, which has some active electronics in it to boost the signal. But according to HDMI, the organization that does HDMI, current high-speed cables will work with HDMI 2.0 with its almost doubled bandwidth. So as long as you have reasonably good HDMI cables to begin with, you're going to be fine. You don't need to replace them.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson is our home theater guru, joins us every week at this time. He's the editor-in-chief of the AVS Forum and hosts a fabulous show for us called Home Theater Geeks every week on the Twit Network. Hello, Scotty.
Hey, Leo. I think we are all geeks on this bus.
We're all geeks on this bus. You don't have to be a geek to listen, but
no, it's true.
But if you want to be on the show, it probably helps. So, and get ready for this one, because today we're going to talk about cables.
We're going to geek out some serious.
What's the best cable? So everybody knows, I think, if you have a cable box, a Blu-ray player, an AV receiver, that you generally want to use an HDMI cable. What does that stand for? High definition multimedia interface.
Multimedia interface. That's exactly correct. Yep.
So those cables are nice because they're digital, and they give you both audio and video. So one cable kind of does it all.
Yep.
But I didn't know this, and I don't think this is very common in the tech business. But they're version numbers of the cables.
Well, that's not entirely true. There are version numbers of HDMI, as there are for most other interfaces.
Well, that makes sense. But don't I have to have an upgraded cable to use it?
No.
Ah, that's good news. Okay.
It's very good news, actually. We were talking off air. You said that USB 3 might need new cables.
Yeah, if you want the full speed of USB 3, you have to get a special cable.
Yeah, it all depends on bandwidth, on how many bits are you trying to pump down that cable. And the good news about HDMI is that current what are called high-speed or Category 2 HDMI cables, which currently work with the HDMI 1.4, which has a bandwidth of 10.2 gigabits per second, will work fine with HDMI 2.0, which has a bandwidth of 18 gigabits per second.
Okay.
So almost double.
So I don't need to get new cables.
Nope.
If I get now you'll have to get a device that supports HDMI 2.
Yes, and herein there's the rub. And the rub is that HDMI 2.0 is actually basically a specification or a list of what features might be there, what HDMI 2.0 supports. It doesn't mean that the manufacturers must implement them all. And that's a real problem, because a lot of people are saying, oh, our product is now HDMI 2.0. Well, what does that really mean? No one knows, because the manufacturer isn't saying, well, because it supports dual stream or dynamic auto lip sync or some of these other features that are available in 2.0 that aren't available in 1.4 in the previous version, the current version. Plus the fact that many manufacturers have upgraded their products with firmware updates and said, now we're compatible with 2.0. Well, yes, with a certain very limited feature set out of HDMI 2.0, not the entire feature set. And so it's very confusing, and people buy these products, TVs in particular, and AV receivers are the biggest culprits, that they simply say 2.0, and they don't say anything about whether it includes this feature or that feature. And the HDMI licensing group, which is the group that actually develops the standard HDMI specification, is really encouraging people, manufacturers, don't just list the version number, list what you support. Now, that's difficult in marketing materials, right? You don't want to just have a list of features, but if you don't, then the consumer is going to be confused about what is actually being implemented.
Welcome to life in the technology business. The consumer confused. Why would anyone care about that?
Well, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, and
me
too.
Why I'm on your show, and why I do my podcast, and why I write on the website AVS Forum. I try to educate people so that they have what they need to know to make intelligent decisions, informed decisions about what to get. But to return to your original question, the good news is you're not going to need to replace your HDMI cables as these new features, which are available in HDMI 2.0, become implemented over the next year. This is a point of confusion, because when I buy cables, they often will say HDMI 1.4 or 1.4A or B. So why do they do that? It's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's completely and utterly meaningless. Any HDMI cable sold today will work with any other HDMI spec? Yes, as long as it's been certified to conform to HDMI. Now, here's another consumer problem, which is that there are disreputable companies who will say, yes, here's an HDMI cable, and they'll even put the HDMI logo on it, and they'll say it's high speed and everything else, but perhaps one of the leads isn't connected, or the solder joints aren't very good, and so there are disreputable companies everywhere. And there's there's a second kind of disreputable, which is a company that overcharges for HDMI. And a lot of times when you buy your TV or your gear, the salesman will say, oh, and you need the cable. And they'll try to sell you a $70 HDMI cable with gold-plated contacts or something like that. So I don't recommend that either. You can overpay for cables, too. Yes. Big time. We recommend routinely a company called Monoprice online, monoprice.com. Are their cables okay? Yeah, they're great. They're great. And they're $10. Yeah. Most of the home theaters that I profile on AVS Forum, we do a feature called Home Theater of the Month, where I, go and profile some really cool home theater. Most of the ones I've done so far, they use Monoprice cables. Kidding. So even the golden eyes, the golden ears, they're happy with Monoprice. Yep, absolutely. See, that's amazing. Monoprice.com, they are not an advertiser. I wish they were. I'd like to make some money off of this. Another thing, and you mentioned this before we went on the air, limit the length of the cable, make it as short as you can. Is that right? That's right. Their HDMI has always had this limitation of you really don't want to be longer than typically on the order of 10 feet or so. There are companies that make longer ones, and they do work sometimes. And there's a new trend now towards including a little chip, a little booster chip, some electronics in the cable that actually boosts the signal and lets it go farther. Okay. So if you're going more than, 6 feet, you should do that? 10 feet. 10 feet. I say typically 10 feet. Most people are not going that far. I'm looking at Monoprice. I did them a disservice. Their HDMI cables start at $2. Now, I got to tell you, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that is every bit as good as a $180 gold-plated monster cable HDMI. I believe it is. Because they're digital. In the old days, analog, that might have made a difference. Yes, absolutely. But digital, it either gets there or it doesn't. If you get a picture, you're getting every bit of the data. Well, yes, that's true. Now, if you have a cable that's too long, you will potentially see what are called sparklies. Yeah. No, you don't want. I understand that. Yeah. You don't want that, and that can happen, and that's a degradation of the digital signal that isn't simply there or not. But that's more than 10 feet. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. So, and somebody in the chat room asked about gold-plated connectors as well.
Again, that's an analog thing that might make a difference.
Well, it really has to do more with corrosion. Right? Gold does not corrode. I mean, that's why they've got, gold coins from hundreds of years, thousands of years ago that just look as good as they did when they were made, because it simply doesn't react with anything.
Right.
And so that's potentially a good thing, particularly if you're plugging and unplugging cables all the time. But if you take your cable, you plug it in, and you leave it there, it's not going to be a problem.
Right.
Simply not going to be a problem.
Yeah. I have to say, though, that my biggest problem with HDMI, and I thought for a long time, oh, this is nice. HDMI feels solid. It feels like, and my cables are falling off now.
Well,
I need to tighten my HDMI. I don't know. Maybe I need a holder. Scott Wilkinson, avsforum.com. He's our home theater geek. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number, 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. You can use Skype or something like that to call me if you're outside of those areas. We do get calls from all around the world, thanks to the amazing power of the internet. Jeanette is in Royal Oak, Michigan. Hi, Jeanette. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, my brother's computer was hacked. His son clicked on this link that took him somewhere. So from listening to you, I set up his wireless network that I share. I put in a surfboard modem and an Airport Extreme.
Good for you.
Yay.
Yay, you're quite the geek.
I'm learning.
So, okay, good.
So can the hackers access my iMac and my iPad 1 through the wireless network?
Well, yes, they could, in theory. That's a virus that goes over a network is called a worm. And so it is possible, though not likely. And in fact, I would say in this case, very, very unlikely. But there are a couple of things you can do on your Mac that I would suggest. In fact, do this on your Windows PC, too. It's turned on by default on Windows. On the Macintosh, if you go into the Security System Preferences pane, you will see that you can turn on the firewall. Now, it should be turned on, I think, but let's see. I'm going to look in mine, Security and Privacy, and see if it's turned on mine. I don't see anything. I have no security or privacy, apparently. It's just a blank window. Come on, Macintosh. There it is. So I'm going to click the Firewall tab. Oh, mine's off. So you're going to want to, I guess by default it's off. So you're going to want to turn it on. What a firewall does, you have a firewall to the outside world. Your airport is or any router is a firewall to the outside world. But what a firewall on a computer does, Windows, Mac, whatever, is it blocks worms coming in from inside the network. It's inside the house. So having a firewall turned on your computer is a very good idea.
Okay, perfect.
Now, on the iPad, you don't have that option, but the good news is that people don't write worms for Windows PCs that infect Macintoshes and even less that infect iPads. In fact, I don't know of a single one that infects iPads. So even if it can cross the network and there's no firewall to block it, it's really unusual for a bad guy to say, I'm going to write a Windows virus that has a built-in capability to infect other operating systems. Just doesn't happen. If you had another Windows machine on there, it could very easily happen.
Okay.
But a firewall blocks unexpected inbound traffic, including worms.
So is it too late to do it now?
No, I don't think you're infected. But turn it on now, just in generally, prophylactically. In fact, that was the single biggest change to security in the history of mankind, was when Microsoft, in its infinite wisdom, in Windows XP Service Pack 2, decided to turn the firewall on by default. That right there, just it was getting crazy, and it shut everything down. Now, we still do have lots of attacks, but they don't tend to go cross, internal networks anymore because of that.
Great, thank you. And I turned my firewall on.
Yay! It wasn't so hard, was it?
Not at all.
Yeah, and you'll see there's firewall options. Occasionally, you'll want to allow things. You can block all incoming connections, or you can say, as I do, allow signed software to come in. That's usually because hackers don't bother getting their software signed. So you have some additional settings if you notice things aren't working. But that's for things cross-network, like you want to run your Macintosh remotely from your iPad or things like that. And those you can enable. Those are safe. Okay, Jeanette?
Right. Great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for being your local tech geek. Coming up in just a second, we're going to talk to Robert. He's in Long Beach, California. He says, my advice destroyed his computer. I'm going to take my lickings in just a bit. Oh, my goodness. Apparently I owe you an apology, Robert. What happened?
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
I should first say that I listen to your program as much as I can. I think you're great, and I don't blame you for anything.
What happened? I'm terrified now. I'm worried.
I should tell you, I'm also you'll probably never meet anyone like me, ever. I'm a professional Japanese interpreter.
Oh, how cool.
So my computer is half Japanese and half English.
Right.
And, you say you should get updates from Microsoft on whatever. And most of the time I don't do this because I've had this problem before. And I've had other computers get destroyed this way. Using Microsoft Word, I use it in English, I use it in Japanese, but don't mix the two because it just destroys the computer. And so I in a moment of weakness, I downloaded these updates, and it completely destroyed the Japanese half of my computer. I can't use it.
How are you getting it half Japanese, half English? Do you have the Japanese version of Windows, or are you merely adding...
I have a Toshiba laptop.
You have a Japanese laptop.
Well, it's Toshiba, but I bought it at Best Buy.
Okay. How are you making it Japanese is my question.
There's a language... An
update will not break this.
No. There's a function in the computer.
Yeah, I understand.
You can change the language from English to Japanese.
Yeah. An update will not break that.
Well, that's the only thing I did, and now I can't do that. Now, what happens?
So can you go back in that setting and pick Japanese again?
Yeah, it won't work.
And what does it do?
It does nothing, except when I'm just using the computer for Microsoft Word, using it in English.
Yeah.
It will sometimes just turn to Japanese, but not Japanese.
Make sure you download the Japanese language packs. Those are optional downloads in the Windows Update. I presume you're doing that.
Well, I didn't do that to begin with.
Yeah,
I got it already installed.
Yeah, do it now. You must do that. I'm not at all sure why this would affect it, except it might blow out the Japanese language stuff, in which case you can get that. It's part of the...
It didn't blow out the Japanese stuff. It just scrambled it. So, for instance, to begin with, I would just change the setting and then phonetically type in Japanese and press the space bar, and it would turn to the correct kanji that I want to use. Right. And now it will not do any of that. When I tap on a key, it won't come out with the correct...
I'm not sure why it's doing that. It's not supposed to do that. That's a normal Windows operation. My suggestion is go back to Windows Update. You'll see in the optional updates the Japanese language packs. Get those. Then go into Regions and Settings and change it back to a Japanese keyboard, a kanji keyboard. And I would suspect you'll be all right. Normally, the best solution, I think, would be to continue to run you're running a U.S. version of Windows. There actually is a Japanese version of Windows, which you can buy online. I'll give you the link to the store. I think the best way for you to do this would be to run the Japanese version of Windows in a virtual machine, side by side with the U.S. version of Windows. And then when you update the Japanese version separately from the U.S. Windows. I suspect you need to get the proper language packs for the version. In other words, updating it means you need to update the language pack as well. So I would try that and see if that works. There absolutely is no reason why a Windows update should make it unable to speak Japanese. I think their language pack no longer matches, that's all. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, I did ask him, and he wasn't very clear, but I think he's using the region to change it to a Japanese keyboard so he can do kanji. Thank you very much. And then I think somebody said in the chat room, and I think this is the case, that you have to have the matching language pack. Do you not? I'm thinking that's what happened. Yeah. Well, he updated Office too, right? So you got to make sure you update all of it, including the language packs. They don't force you to update the language packs. They're an optional update, and I think that's probably what's wrong. It's my best guess. Ah, the Onkyo rep. You should know, right?
I've been talking with Sibelius in the chat room about he wants to connect some old Sony speakers to a Yamaha keyboard, to the audio out of a Yamaha keyboard. And the speakers don't have RCA connectors. They're lower-end speakers, and they just have these wires coming out that you stick into spring-loaded clips on the back of a receiver. And I'm telling him that you could solder RCA connectors onto the ends of those wires, but I don't think it would work anyway because the speakers are expecting what's called speaker level signals. And the keyboard is probably not putting out speaker level signals. Speaker level signals are amplified. You need a power amplifier to generate them, and the Yamaha keyboard doesn't have that. At least not for external audio outputs. The keyboard might have internal speakers, and maybe Sibelius wants a better sound than those speakers give him, but I don't think it's going to work, not without a little amplifier. You're going to need a little amplifier. Ideally, what you want to do is take the audio output from the keyboard, put it into the receiver, or a receiver, some sort of power amplifier type gizmo with a line level input. See, that's what the keyboard is putting out, is line level audio. What the speaker needs to see is speaker level audio. Now, these are not high-end speakers, so you don't need much power, but you need something. So you need basically you need an amplifier between the keyboard output and the speakers. That's the intermediary that you need to use. And so Sibelius says, I don't want to solder. I don't blame you. Unless you're a DIY geek, it's not necessarily a fun thing to do, but it's not going to work anyway. It doesn't matter. You need that receiver in the middle to power those speakers, to accept the line level signal from the keyboard, amplify it, and send it to the speaker. So if I'm understanding you correctly, that is what you probably need to do. Web8440 in the chat room asks, how did I get into calibrating TVs professionally? I was working at hometheater.com, our home theater magazine, and got the opportunity to attend the THX video calibration training. Now, I knew already a lot about it, just by osmosis, really, just by the fact that I was covering this industry. So I learned a lot about color science and how TVs represent color and so on. And then when I had the chance to go take the THX course, I jumped at that chance because it was really great. It was, as I often say, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It was just a ton of information coming at you for over 3 long days. But I learned a lot that I didn't already know. There was a lot of stuff I already did know, but there's always opportunities to learn in this life, and that's what I try to remain open to. And so I took that course, and I'm now a THX certified calibrator, and that's kind of how I got into that. Sibelius says, my onboard speakers, my Roland has none. Yeah, I used to work for Roland, actually, many years ago as a product specialist and phone troubleshooter for consumers, for customers. And, the onboard speakers there on the Yamaha, if they aren't that good, take the audio outs, send them to a receiver or something like that. X-Tomb wouldn't want to drink from a fire hose. Yeah, neither would I, except that in terms of information, it was really, really quite good. So let's see here. Yeah, Mick says, a fella might have to be right thirsty to drink from a fire hose. That's true. I made that too. Look, I love the smell of flux in the morning. Yes, when you're soldering, you have this little wire, this little solder wire, which is a pretty soft metal, and you have a soldering iron, and you often have to put this pasty kind of almost earwaxy material there to help with the heat transfer and make sure everything gets soldered well. And it does have a particular smell. That's for sure. Big Ginge says MT32 for the win. Yes, the Roland MT32 was a little synthesizer. It came along after I was there, but it was working at Roland was really fun. It was the only job I've ever had in my 20, 30 years of being a professional where I had to actually be in the office at 8:30 in the morning. I like my schedule to be more flexible than that. But it was a great learning experience, and I went to the NAMM show and met a bunch of great musicians and got to play music. See, that was the difference between that and what I do now, which is I was working with creative people rather than strictly consumers. Now, I have nothing against consumers. I'm one myself, and I enjoy it very much. But there is a difference between working with people who simply sit back and watch movies or listen to music or whatever, and those who actually create it and produce it. I kind of straddle those two worlds and enjoy doing that very much. WD Mark PC, the THX calibration tool for Android. Yeah, I'm sure the Android version is available now. I saw an email on that not too long ago, and it's definitely cool. You put this app on your Android phone or your iPhone, and it helps you set the basic picture controls. It's not a full calibration, but it's a setup, so you can set brightness, contrast, color, tint, sharpness on your TV and get a good fraction, a majority of the way towards the TV's best possible performance. Web 5211, will LCD panels ever reach the black level of plasma displays? Well, they already have. The Sharp Elite, may it rest in peace, did in fact achieve really, really great black levels, but it was so expensive, just like the Pioneer Kuro, and it didn't last because it was so expensive. LCD TVs with LED local dimming, backlit, what's called full array local dimming, can get close, certainly, because they can take the LEDs behind the LCD panel, behind the dark parts of the image, and dim those down and make a very, very nice deep black, So I always recommend, if you can, get full array with local dimming. And the good news about that is not very many people made them. Most people made these edge-lit TVs because they could be thinner, and that people wanted thin. I want performance. So I prefer the full array backlit TVs. And Vizio, this year for 2014, all of their TVs are going to be backlit.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk about computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, and all that jazz. 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. of A. Let's move on to RJ. Is it RJ in Orange, California County? Hello, RJ. Leo Laporte here.
Hey, I'm the guy that joked about your voice last week.
And they let you back on, huh?
They called me and said, hey, you got any more of that stuff?
Any more material you'd like to use? What can I do for you, RJ?
I heard on the radio on KFI last week that the ATMs are running Windows XP.
Yeah, 95% of all the ATMs in the U.S. still run Windows XP, the same XP you get on your desktop, the same bits. Nothing to worry about.
Right. What do you mean?
Nothing to worry.
Money.
Yeah, I know, but there's nothing to worry about because ATMs are not okay. So here's the risk running XP. By the way, if you know what you're doing, you can continue to use XP, and we have an article on the website techguylabs.com. The risk on any computer is going out on the internet, going to sites that have been hacked or have malware on them, downloading viruses via email, clicking a link, and downloading something bad. An ATM is not doing any of the above. The ATM is just dispensing bills. It is on the internet in a sense because it has to be on a network to the bank and so forth, but it's a protected network, and it's not visiting websites. It's not opening emails. It's not opening email attachments. It's not clicking links on Facebook. It's just an ATM. It's not being used as a regular computer. So almost all of the threats to an ATM, to a computer rather, are not, the ATM is not subject to. Now, could a bad guy try to hack an ATM knowing there's some vulnerabilities? Absolutely. Symantec wrote what I think is a little bit of a dubious article. It got picked up everywhere. I'm sure this is one of the things KFI saw that said bad guys can make an ATM spew bills with a simple USB key that they plug into the USB port on the ATM. Have you ever used an ATM? Have you ever seen a USB port on an ATM?
No.
No. So the bad guy has to get into the bank and get around the back of the ATM, or maybe has to use a jackhammer to open up the wall and get in. It was a silly little article from Symantec. Understand that the antivirus company, this certainly is a theoretical threat. The antivirus companies, their job is to make sure you buy antivirus software. And this is not something you have to worry about. Most of the banks, all the big banks, are what we call volume licensees of Windows. That means they are continuing to get updates for XP. They pay a lot of money for those, but they continue to get updates. I talked to a friend who is a retired executive, or actually programmer at Diebold, the company that makes most of the ATMs in the country. He's the one who explained to me that they are, in fact, using a version of Windows XP for embedded machines. Not embedded Windows, but the actual XP that we use at home. He said, and Diebold did examine at one time getting updates as a volume licensee, but it's very expensive. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he said most of our customers were already doing it. Most big banks do. It is very unlikely that and the only person who would lose money is the bank, not you. You're covered. So in every respect, there's nothing to worry about. This is a pretty good example of the kind of scare stuff you see in the media. It's not technically untrue, but my job is to be the voice of reason and say it's going to be okay. Now, I am worried about XP in the hands of normal users because most of the people who have Windows XP are, and there are almost 500 million of us, are not sophisticated users. That's why they're still using their 13-year-old computer. And so many of them don't listen to the show and don't know what to do. If you've got friends who are using XP, it's fine. It's safe. There's some very basic things you can do to protect yourself. In fact, that everyone should do to protect themselves on all versions of all operating systems. But XP, the fact that Microsoft's not going to update them isn't necessarily cause for panic. Number one, on all operating systems is to update. That's the one thing you can't do on XP anymore. But if you're an operating system that's current, get those updates when the company offers them. The number two thing everybody must do is do not run as an administrator. And different versions of Windows call it different things, either a standard user or a limited user. This is, by the way, all in our article at techguylabs.com. Do not run as an administrator because the bad guy runs at the same level you're running at. Administrator has all power. Don't give a bad guy all power. Limit what you can do. If you need to install software or, make some changes, you can always log in as an administrator and do that and then log right out. But your day-to-day surfing, your day-to-day computer use should always be as a limited or standard user, not as administrator. That one thing fixes almost everything. You shouldn't use Internet Explorer anymore because they aren't keeping it up to date on XP. And your browser, of course, is the number one way bad guys get into your system because you got to get on the net, right? So make sure you download and install Chrome. It's automatically kept up to date. Google says we're going to keep it up to date at least till 2015 on XP. So it's kept up to date. It has an up-to-date version of Flash, which is nice because Flash is another problem. Uninstall Java because you got to keep that. If you're not willing to keep that up to date, uninstall it. And chances are you don't use it. Uninstall Flash and use Chrome. You don't need it. Chrome will do it for you. And I would recommend, if you're using Adobe Reader, and I think most people on Windows are, that you make sure you go to Adobe. They're going to keep it up to date and update that regularly. Anything that goes out on the internet needs to be kept up to date. The good news is your browser can be, if you're using Chrome, Adobe Reader, Adobe Flash, Java, all can be kept up to date. Java's the one thing, Oracle's not going to update that anymore, so get rid of it. Don't use Java. You don't need it anyway. It's kind of old school. Not JavaScript, Java, it's different. Just the one Java, the first two syllables. If you do those things, you should. If you have an antivirus, you'll keep that up to date, and that's fine. That's belt and suspenders. It's going to protect you. And then the main thing is the same thing on all platforms. Be careful. Don't go to, know what sites you're visiting. Don't accept software from strangers. If suddenly you get a pop-up that says, we'd like to install this, really ask yourself, do I need it? Did I ask for it? Who's asking me to install this? All of that stuff is dangerous. But if you act, you practice safe computing, you do it as a limited user, you get rid of the software you don't need, and you update the software that you do, you're going to be able to run Windows XP safely. And ATM machines, because they don't use a browser, they don't use email, they don't use instant messenger or Facebook, they're much, much less vulnerable. There may be some targeted attacks. It's possible. If something should happen, then the bank will cover it. That's what banks do. Banks get hacked all the time. They don't like to talk about it, but they do. And they just cover the loss and they move on. So I wouldn't, you're going to hear it, especially in the next week or so, because a week from Tuesday is the end of the line for Windows XP. You're going to hear a lot of, I think, sensationalistic stories. And I'm a little guilty of this. I want people who use XP to know the real risk, unfortunately, and it's a risk to all of us, is the people who just don't, blithely going along. They haven't updated their software in years anyway. They're using Internet Explorer 6. You know this guy. And they go to random sites. They click links all the time. But those people have almost certainly already been hacked. It's not going to get any worse next week. They're already messed up. It's very unlikely that somebody's been doing everything right all along, and then suddenly, because XP doesn't get updated, they get hacked. I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you have an old machine and you can afford to upgrade it, it's probably a good idea to get a newer machine. They're a lot faster and better and more secure. But if you want to keep using XP, you can. Read our article at Tech Guy Labs. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. My mom used Windows 2000 for years, and because she ran as a limited user, we never had a problem, ever. Yeah, there's something really wrong with my Mac Pro. It makes me sad. It's so intermittent that I don't know if I can get Apple to fix it or not. I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, get rid of the Adobe stuff. Now, if you use a Chrome, then you're all right. Get rid of Java. Get rid of Adobe stuff. Oh, I'm sorry I haven't seen that yet. Jeff Garland produced it. That's neat. Underrated gym blossoms hint at what might have been in Dallas show. You see?
I was completely off.
They are wonderful. You should go see. You got to figure that a lot of these bands are actually, Blues Traveler I saw last year at Bottle Rock. They were good.
Were they?
Yeah.
Maybe the 90s weren't so bad. Maybe I want to revisit them. And trust me, I saw the Gin Blossoms, and I had a great time, but I feel like that was then. But now I've read that review, and I'm genuinely excited. Like, good for them. And I feel horrible because I forgot that the one guy, offed himself.
Oh, dear.
So, in this article, they compare him to REM and the Byrds and someone else, and I'm going, all right, I take it all back. I'm going to give it another listen.
Wow, so he killed himself after Hey Jealousy became a hit.
Right.
Wow, that's terrible.
Beatmaster, yeah, I'm going to look up the Spin Doctors because maybe they've got new music too. Who else is on the bill? It was
all
just
right, let's go look at Bottle
90s, whatever, but maybe it's
maybe that's all
great.
they can get.
Well, it seemed kind of like that county fair kind of music.
It is a little county fairish.
Except for
Outkast, that's going to be good.
Oh, and they added TV on the radio after they first announced it. And I'm like, all right, the TV on the radio is a game changer for sure.
I never even heard of them.
You have. You know their song,
Weezer, they're very.
Weezer's good.
The
right?
Cure. I'm not dying to see the Cure. Come on, you want to see LL Cool J? Come on.
I do. I had a sandwich next to LL Cool J years ago.
Wow. TV on the radio, sure, you want to see them.
They do Wolf Like Me. It's a great song. Nathan, play Wolf Like Me.
Heart, Third Eye Blind. I can see what you're saying
Third
here.
Eye Blind.
Yeah. De La Soul, I like them.
Yeah, that'll be cute.
I'm sorry, is it wrong? But I like the Bare Naked Ladies. Is that wrong of me?
I want you to love them.
Cracker, Blues Traveler will be back.
And do Jello shots.
I was on Regis
Cracker and Camper are amazing.
I was on Regis and Kelly with Blues Traveler.
Really?
Yeah.
The Krummacher, there's a guitar player in a camper van.
Smash Mouth.
Cracker.
Hey man, you're a rock star. Get your game on. Go play.
They are fun to see.
Yeah. You've seen them all, haven't you?
Yeah.
Who's good? You're going to have to give us a list of who's good.
Cracker and Camper, you definitely want to see.
Camper Van Beethoven.
Yeah. They're kind of the same band. I saw them at a small club.
Yeah,
I don't know,
baby.
Within the last year. And I'm in love.
The Stone Foxes. How could you not? Moon Alice.
Stone Foxes are great. Oh, Moon Alice are the worst thing to ever happen to me.
You know why? Because of this guy who I went to school with.
Oh, you know him.
Yeah, Roger. He's really, really rich, right? So he always wanted to be a rock star. So he formed a band that would let him play if they gave him money. How they get gigs is beyond me. Right? He doesn't like me too much either.
But he has this marketing machine because he has money, so he's sort
filthy
of
rich.
inflicted
But you know what's
himself
really
on.
sad is he made all his money investing in Palm.
Oh my God!
Actually, I can't remember what he made his money on, but I think he's lost most of it in Palm because he was big on Palm right before they went under.
Oh my God, they're so.
But he's investing Bono's money. That's the sad. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Let's say hello to Hamid in Danbury, Connecticut. Hello, Hamid.
Hello, Leo. Firstly, quick listen for talking old bands. Here's one that should come back, at least like for nostalgia. It came out in 2000. Remember ATC, aka A Touch of Class?
A Touch of Class. I'm going to have to talk to my musical consultant, Heather Hammond. Do you ever hear them? No. You like them, huh? We were talking about 80s bands, and I don't know why. But anyway, okay, I'll put that on my list. ATC, all-terrain vehicle.
Was their hit. Around the World was their biggest thing.
Beats me. Beats me.
Hello?
Yes, I'm still here. What can I do for you?
So anyway, I've got hit by this software twice now. The first time was, I guess, was it 2 years ago, last year, when they were fixing Mary Jo's house? Remember the episode where you and Paul and Mary Jo were talking on Windows Weekly?
Yeah.
They were hammering.
Yeah, they were banging, yeah. And you got infected then?
Yeah, I got this thing called PC Optimizer Pro. And
that sounds bad. How could that be bad? It's optimizing your PC, and it's for professionals.
Yeah, here's the thingy, though. It says, and when you can go into it, you can open it up. There's a file shredder. There's it's sort of like an antivirus thing. There's a thing to get rid of cookies.
Sounds good. Doesn't that sound good? And I bet your computer's going to run 10 times faster after you run it.
That's what they say. But here's the thing. It keeps popping up and saying, you have thousands and thousands of infections. Try it if you want to.
They're trying to sell you something, huh?
And here's the thing. Here's the part that I'm kind of annoyed about. And I'm using Google Chrome since you were mentioning Google Chrome because of this.
Good man.
And I'm using Windows 8.1, but it has now messed up IE.
Yeah, I don't recommend. So you see ads for this stuff all the time. The funniest one I ever saw, I can't remember the name of the product, but it was the same idea. Your computer running slow, we can speed it up. And they tell you the website to go with. And all of the, of course, it's for Windows. All this stuff is for Windows. And but all of the people who were getting sped up versions of Windows were using Macintoshes. And they were superimposing Windows screens on their Macintoshes. It was extremely odd. It happens a lot. I think the ad agency uses Macs, but they're doing an ad for a Windows product. Don't use these. Don't fall for these, please. I'm not even a fan of registry cleaners. We talk a lot about the idea that or you hear a lot about the idea, and a lot of grizzled old veterans will say, "Oh yeah, I cleaned my registry and it's all better now." No, don't do that, because the risks are much higher than the reward. Any registry cleaner that isn't dangerous isn't doing anything. In order to be a useful registry cleaner, it actually has to be aggressive, and that's exactly what you don't want. People do recommend Piriform's C Cleaner, and I guess it's okay. But I have yet to be demonstrated to me the value of using a registry cleaner of any kind. Similarly, you don't need a disk optimizer anymore. Any modern operating system, and includes every version of Windows for the last 10 years, is going to handle all this automatically. It's nothing to worry about. Don't mess around with this. The best way if your PC is running slow, it could be a bad hard drive or bad sectors on your hard drive. It could be a virus infection. It is very unlikely it is a registry problem. Very, very unlikely. And it's very easy to write a registry cleaner, a temp file cleaner, a cache cleaner. It's easy to write those. And it's snake oil. Don't buy it. Don't do it. If you really are having problems with your computer, reinstalling Windows is a good place to start. I do not recommend any of these cleaners. And, of course, you're going to get all the, quote, tech guys with a lowercase t. Who's going to say, "Oh, I use that. It's great stuff." No. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. Now, you've got it on there. If it's not malware, it'll have an ad, go to add remove programs or the programs and features control panel. Why does Microsoft rename this stuff just randomly? Makes it so hard for me to support. On some versions of Windows, it's called the programs and features control panel. More recent versions of Windows, it's called programs and features. It used to be add remove, right? I can't keep track of it. You know what I'm talking about. Uninstall. Look for PC Optimizer Pro and uninstall it, and uninstall anything associated with it. In fact, I routinely go through my programs and features and uninstall anything I don't recognize. Conduit, Gorilla, bookmarks. There's all sorts of stuff. Get rid of it all. And do it by hand. You can do a better job than any automated cleaner will do. And then don't fall for it again. It's a waste of money. In your case, I think it's become adware, right? It's constantly popping up things saying, buy something. That's no good. Chris in Miami, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Chris.
Hey.
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 Hey, Chris.
I wanted to apologize to you for the bodies thing last week. I got to stop listening to so much KSFO.
Okay.
But I did upgrade to the 8, but iTunes crashed, and should I just do like a complete install of the OS all over again?
You upgraded to Mavericks?
Yes.
Yeah, Mavericks has really been a little problematic for a lot of people. I've installed it on 4 or 5 Macs without problems, but if you do have problems, first thing I'd try is uninstalling and reinstalling iTunes. And QuickTime, if you installed that with it. On Windows, people install QuickTime in addition to iTunes. Uninstall and reinstall. If that doesn't work, it's... I know it's kind of a pain, but people have this resistance to erasing your drive and starting over. It is a good discipline. It's like cold showers. It's just a good thing every once in a while. Go for a long run and take an ice cold shower. It's clean your hard drive, wipe your hard drive, and reinstall. It fixes a multitude of problems. And frankly, it's like spring cleaning. I do it at least yearly. It's not a bad thing to do. So yeah, if you're having trouble with Mavericks, it's probably because you installed it on top of the previous operating system, Mountain Lion or Snow Leopard or Leopard. Start fresh. If you're having problems, start fresh. Randy in Dallas, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Randy.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
Oh,
I
good.
used to read you and Dvorak back in the early 80s.
I'm that old timer I was talking about. Yep.
And I know you and I both had Atari 800s, so you had to play Mule.
I love that game.
Oh, me too. There's nothing better.
That mule theme is the mule's going. I love that.
And
love that.
We're players at an Atari.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it?
I know.
Now that's an 80s group I can get behind.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a question, and I don't mind taking hits from the chat room. hits from you, whatever.
What's your question?
Okay, the way it is, I know you got to do a clean install on Windows. I'm a Windows guy. You got to clean install every 6 months, every year. No, my last clean install was Windows 95A.
What? What? Are you nuts? It's time to start over. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our show today brought to you by Hover.com. Are you one of those people? I know that some of you are. That as soon as you get a great idea, you register the domain name. I do that. I have so many silly domain names. The good news is I used Hover to register them, and it's easy to manage them. Hover.com is the place to manage and register your domain names. They simplify domain name management. They're so great. I love them. I want you to give them a try. They're from the folks at Two Cows. In fact, you might. I think they were originally called Domain. What were they called? They hadn't. You might have used them in the past. This is what all of my domains now are registered with. Is Hover.com. They're clean. They're simple. It's very straightforward. You don't have to mess around with a lot of upselling. They know you want Whois privacy. They include it in the price. Let me log into my Hover account. I'll show you all my domains that I've registered over the years with Hover.com. GameOnShow.com.tv. I got my kids' names. Inside InsideTwit.tv. I have Fancy Pants. I have Pollywog Parenting. I have Munchcat. I know, don't ask me. TunicTime.com. I was thinking of getting in the tunic business, okay? Tunic Time. Now here's...
Who doesn't love a nice tunic?
I agree. Of course, as a ham, I have all my ham call sign, .com.net.org. Hover really makes this easy and affordable. It's easy to manage your domains. They also offer Google Apps, so if you would like to get Google Apps, but you want great support, you can get Google Apps through Hover. They give you the support. Everything you already love, Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Docs, the whole package. They can be added to a new domain or one you already own, and if you're not sure Google Apps is for you, they offer a 30-day free trial, and they really help you get it all set up. Hover includes everything you need with your domain, no more, no less. You get a smart control panel. You can do what you want. Of course, all the normal big domain names like .com, .net, .org, but also .tv, .pro, .mobi, .biz, .io. All the country names like .ca, .asia, .us, .uk. They'll give you an email address to go along with your domain. In fact, that's one of the best reasons to register a domain, even if you don't want a website, is to have your own custom email forever. No hold, no wait, no transfer phone support, too, at Hover.com. If you call during business hours, you'll speak to a live person who's empowered and eager to help. To register your domain name today, visit Hover.com/TechGuy3, because we're in March, right? And use the offer code TechGuy3. Hover.com/TechGuy3. Use the offer code TechGuy3. Hover! Save 10% off right now. Hey, Johnny Jet.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Are you at home? Did you suffer? I saw your tweet. Did you feel the earthquake?
You know it. Man, I jumped out of bed. I just got done with the jet lag nap, and
somebody's waking you up.
The bed was rolling.
Hang on, here we go. Big old jet airliner. Why, that must be the Johnny Jet theme. Johnny Jet, our travel guru. He joins us every week to save you money and time and trouble traveling using high tech. Hello, Johnny.
How you doing, Leo?
Just got back from Australia, I know, and what we greeted you with a little bit of an earthquake, a little rumble down under.
That's right. I felt it 5.1 last night here in LA at 9:09 p.m. I just woke up from a little nap, and that woke me up.
Yeah. Johnny, did you have a dream like your mom was shaking you? Johnny, time to get up for school, Johnny.
I knew what it was right away.
Did you? Yeah. Have you been through any of the big ones like the Northridge or?
Luckily, I was out of town.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good thing about traveling. You miss some of these big earthquakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck. Okay. Well, that's one way to do it. Just stay out of town.
I was looking at the chat room last week, and they
Oh, I think the earthquake's ruined your internet connection. Your Skype is falling apart on me here. Johnny, I'm afraid you're going to have to. Why don't you call us? Call us on the telephone. Let's see if we can get that to work. Now he's completely frozen. I should actually make fun of him and leave it on his frozen face. Oh, man.
With the slitted eyes.
Yeah. Skype's like that, isn't it? Sometimes it just doesn't work. Tell you what, we don't need to call him back. Johnny, call us on the telephone and keep your eye peeled for that, and we'll get Johnny's travel tip. Skype usually pretty good for us. Doesn't fail us that often, but when it does... Oh, wait a minute. He's there now. Did we call him back? Let's see how it works now. Hi, John.
Hi. I don't know what happened there.
Well, I do. It's called
Skype?
Bandwidth. Yeah. So you survived the earthquake, and I hope everybody else did. I
did, and did you hear me say that? The chat room wanted me to talk about the Malaysian flight. I know it's been beat to death on CNN and Fox, but I just thought real quick that we could. I
don't know if there's anything more to say. They're still looking for it. CNN has spent 158 hours saying nothing.
I know, it's amazing. But I just tweeted an article that was in Wired magazine, and I think that gives the best possible scenario what happened, and it was written by a pilot. So I just tweeted it, and I copied you on it.
At Johnny Jet, if you don't
he thinks
follow.
It was electrical fire, and I go to Land County, and it's on autopilot.
And he's frozen again. Oh, well. If you are not following Johnny on Twitter, it's a good idea. In fact, take a look at the lists he offers, because he has all of the Twitter handles for all of the airlines, for all of the deals and all of that. And, of course, his website, johnnyjet.com. We'll figure out the Skype thing. I apologize, but I don't think it's going to work. We tried. Let's say hi to Randy, Dallas. I'm sorry, I just did Randy. Let's do Trevor in Richmond, California. Hi, Trevor.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I have two quick questions regarding security and my Google account, if I may.
Sure, go right ahead.
All right. I signed up for additional storage on Google Drive and use Windows 8. And I'm wondering, what's the best way to encrypt my personal data before I upload it? I'm kind of concerned about somehow not being able to unencrypt the data, like years down the line if I ever need the backup.
A lot of the value of Google Drive is lost, of course, if you encrypt it. You're just using it as somewhere to store stuff now.
Right. For just a small amount of data. Most of my data I wouldn't be encrypting.
Oh, okay. So I think a lot of people are nervous about cloud storage because the fear is, well, there are a couple of fears. One, we know the NSA can scoop it up if they wish. And we also know now that companies can do the same. And a rogue employee, for instance, could.
Sure.
If you put something on the internet, it's safe to assume the safest way to act, I guess, is to assume it's public. Unless you encrypt it. And I think you kind of got the nail on the head here. It is possible to strongly scramble something in a way that only you can read it. Every once in a while I'll hear a conspiracy theorist say, well, the NSA's got a giant computer in Utah that can unscramble anything. But trust the math. And the math is pretty clear that if you use a long enough key, that the amount of time computing power required to unscramble something is so great that it's just not something that is feasible. Even if you were able to apply massive amounts of computing to it, we'd be hundreds of years. So a strong encryption is your friend. Public key cryptography is what we talk about, although you don't need to use public key for this. You can use TrueCrypt.
Okay.
That's a free program, TrueCrypt, truecrypt.org. It's available Windows, Mac, Linux. You download it. You can scramble any file and then move that file to your Google Drive folder. It will be unreadable by anybody but you.
Okay.
Use a good, long, strong, random password, of course, for your TrueCrypt password.
Right.
But so TrueCrypt is not public key. Public key is designed for messaging, where you have a public key and a private key. That way, somebody can send you something encrypted without knowing how to unencrypt it. But this case, you're going to use a simple simple key that's yours, a symmetric key, and encrypt it. You just have to make sure you don't lose your password. If you do, you're out of luck.
Right.
But that's what you want. You don't want any back doors to that. TrueCrypt is open source. That gives us some sense of security. It would be very hard for a spy agency to sneak a back door into it. But there is even a movement afoot, and in fact, it's almost done now, to do an audit of the TrueCrypt software in its entirety and make sure it is, in fact, completely secure. And then there'll be a certified version of TrueCrypt you can use that you absolutely know there is no chance of a government backdoor in that.
Right. Okay. All right. And my second question is, I use Gmail. Is it safe to use Gmail on an open access Wi-Fi hotspot if I'm using second factor authentication?
Yes, it is now, because all of Gmail is encrypted. Google made this available as a checkbox, HTTPS, but it wasn't required. It is now. Anytime you're using Google Mail, you are encrypted. And the idea of second factor is to add a little bit more security, because even if somebody knew your password, they'd also have to know that 6-digit code that you get from your Google Authenticator. So they'd have to have your phone. They'd have to know your password, have your phone, be able to get into your phone, and that's the only way they could get it. So the password is not sent in the clear, nor is your email sent in the clear. It's all sent encrypted now.
Okay. And now, does that apply like for other services that use second factor authentication as well?
Not necessarily. You only want to use email in an unsecure open Wi-Fi access spot if it uses HTTPS through the entire transaction, not just the password, but through the transmission of the email itself. Google does. Some others do. Facebook is now starting to. Really, at this point, there's no reason for every site not to start using HTTPS. That would really help prevent snoops, even at Wi-Fi, open Wi-Fi access spots. But Gmail is safe. Right. Google has really been has taken a step forward in this. I don't remember which other email solutions have HTTPS. I'm pretty sure Yahoo offers it but doesn't require it. I'm pretty sure Microsoft offers it but does not require it. Google's the only one that absolutely always uses it now. And you should check with your internet service provider. They may or may not. The real risk, and this it's sad to say, but there's still companies that do this, internet service providers and so forth, is if your password is set in the clear. Because then somebody who's snooping can capture your login and password, go away, and continue to log into your email at will until you change your password. Right. Google, you don't have to worry about that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. The second factor authentication is nice, and a lot of companies now starting to offer it. Tumblr just added it, Facebook, Twitter, Google. It means you have to have a second code sent to your smartphone that lets you log in. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm sorry, Johnny. It was just not going to work. Oh, I wish the sun had come out. We've got a lot of rain up here in Northern California, a lot of snow and bad weather all over the country. Spring will be here. March comes in like a lion, and it's got a couple of days to turn back into that lamb. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. Our website, I got to say this more often, I have been remiss. Everything's on the website that I mentioned, and that's techguylabs.com. Free. There's no subscription. You don't have to. We have audio and video from previous shows there. You can watch them freely. Videos on YouTube. You can even go to previous shows if you heard something or you remember something and you're trying to find it. We have a good search engine there, and you can actually go through show by show, question by question. And furthermore, I would ask you a favor. If you've got a better idea, don't shout at the radio. I can't really hear you. Go to the website and make comments. Add to it, because the more information we have about a particular issue, the better. techguylabs.com. Let's see. Sulphur, Oklahoma. I love that. Neil's on the line. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Leo.
Is sulfur do you have hot springs there?
We actually do. We have the smallest national park in the United States.
How big is it?
Oh, it's very small. It's in my backyard. No, we do have one here, though. It's very small. I don't know.
It's a great claim to fame. We have the smallest national park.
Yes.
That's a great claim to fame. Is it Sulphur National Park?
It's Chickasaw National Recreational Area.
Oh, it sounds good to me.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to tell you back in well, I listen to you way too much, Leo.
Okay.
My wife is jealous.
Yeah, I have two long-suffering spouses here in the studio with me, and you ought to see their long faces.
Yeah.
They're just so bored.
And you're my bath time buddy, too.
I'm your bath time buddy. Well. Yeah. No wonder your wife's upset.
Not what you think.
Do you have one of them? You have one of them waterproof radios and a duck?
I probably need to. I see my wife in there with the new iPad, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I know. I do the same thing. I get in the tub with the iPad, and I know there's trouble brewing there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you, in 1979, my first computer, the Timex Sinclair Z80.
Oh, well, that was a classic.
And I bought 16K of additional RAM for $75.
Oh boy. I just bought 4 gigs of RAM for $75. So the prices have dropped a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say I appreciate you turning me on to the Moto X.
Ah, you like it, huh?
I love this phone.
It's I feel bad about it. Motorola did not, was bought by Google. They made, I think, the best Google phone out there, the best Android phone out there, and nobody paid any attention to it because on paper it wasn't as super duper fancy schmancy as some of the other phones out there.
Right.
Yeah, but I thought it was from a functional point of view, it is really a great phone. Now, of course, Motorola's
the feature I love the most is the voice controls.
I agree. Touchless.
I'm a little creeped out though by it listening to me all the time. That's the only problem, but I love it.
It isn't, and I'll tell you why you don't have to worry about that. But have you tried OK Google Now? What's up?
No, I haven't.
Try that one. This is a new one they just added. They're adding new controls all the time. They just added OK Google Now, take a picture. You can actually, without touching the phone, have it take a picture.
Well, just taking a picture, the quick shake of your hand.
I love that.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I got one with a bamboo back, and it's beautiful. So they've done a nice job, I think. I guess I have walnut back, yeah.
But, the listening to me all the time,
So here's what's happening. It is not listening to you in the sense that it's sending what you're saying up to the server. That would be crazy because it would use a lot of bandwidth and a lot of power. So that's why when you first set up the phone, you say 3 times, you say, OK, Google Now. You say that 3 times, and what it does is it captures the waveform in its own memory. And then it is always listening, but only locally, trying to match the sounds it hears with the sound it has recorded there. And when it's a close enough match, it goes, and it wakes up. But nothing gets sent back to the home office until it wakes up. Now, it is sending it back to Google.
Yeah.
When you say, what's up, it's sending it back to Google.
I'm just all in on Google. Everything's turned on. Everybody's somewhat afraid of that, but I'm just turning it all on and using all the services.
Yeah, might as well just give it up. There are new overlords, and we might as well just accept it.
That's right.
I'm with you. And I understand that for a lot of people, what they call all the time, there's a nervousness about giving all our information to Google. And the thing is, we get so much in return. And I think with Google, look, if you're using a free website, a free service, if you're using Facebook, if you're using Twitter, if you're using Google and it's free, guess what? They got to make money somehow. It's expensive. They're selling ads to you that you're the product. They're going to advertisers saying, hey, you want to reach Neil in the bathtub? We can do it. But that's the same thing for this show. It's a free show. And you're getting ads. What I like about Google is it's a fairly explicit trade. You understand what you're giving them, and you understand what you're getting. And you're getting a lot of great free stuff. So as long as you're willing to make that trade, I'm okay with it. And if you're not, fine, don't use it. But don't use it for free and then say, but I don't like the fact they're trying to make money. Well, somebody's got to pay for those servers. That's how it works.
It's just wonderful. They just turned on desktop notifications on the...
I know. I love that. And Google Now, and they're going to start doing these watches. Motorola's going to make one this summer, the Moto 360, that will have many of the same features that you like on the phone. It'll be listening. Somebody sends you a text, you'll be able to raise the watch and respond to them.
My granddad would be proud. He was Dick Tracy.
Very Dick Tracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a great question, and I understand people's discomfort with this, but I think it's fairly explicit. If you go to google.com/dashboard, they actually have a page where all your data is, everything they know about you. And so you can see you can even delete some of it if you don't like it, but you're getting something for nothing. I think Facebook, it's very similar. They give you a free service, a very, very useful service. They gotta pay for those servers. They're expensive somehow. And the way they do it is by showing you ads. And in both cases, ads that are tailored to your interests. And that's, for some reason, that creeps people out. It doesn't bother me. I think probably most people, it doesn't bother them, but I just want everybody to understand, make that explicit. Understand what it is that you're giving up, what you're getting, and then in your mind, you can make that decision. Is it worth it? In my case, and I guess yours too, it is.
Yes.
Well, I'll see you in the bath.
Okay, Leo.
Thanks, Neil. John in Irvine is next. Hi, John. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo. Longtime listener, great fan of yours. Thank you, by the way, for being such an ethical spokesperson, advertiser. I heard your advertisement for ESET Nod 32.
Yes, sir.
And I made the switch, and I'm so happy I did. Thank you for putting me onto that.
Yeah, it's a great little antivirus, and I'm glad you like it. That's great. And they will,
really well.
If you're using XP, they and most other antivirus companies, including Microsoft, are going to keep that part at least up to date.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, the reason I called, the princess said, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And, Leo, I really need your help here with this headset. I'm keyboard challenged, and so I use Windows speech recognition all the time. And my microphone finally got old, and so I was shopping for a new one. Since I have a couple of Logitech keyboards, and I like their products, I bought the Logitech G35 USB headset. And I'm really happy with the quality of it, except that when I use it for Windows speech recognition, it works in the Windows products.
We're going to take a break. Hang on, okay? Hold that thought. We'll come right back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter.com. A really great way to find the right employee, or if you're an employee looking for work, to find the right employer. Wouldn't it be nice if you're looking for staff to be able to go to one place and just post it on all the job boards? It's kind of hard to know which job board is right for a particular job, but ZipRecruiter does it all for you. With one click of the mouse, ZipRecruiter will post to 50-plus job sites, including social networks like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. So it's the best way to post jobs. They'll even go through the candidates as they roll in to automatically highlight the best ones. You screen them, rate them, and hire the right person. FAST, fast. They will help you create a company logoed landing page with your company logo and colors, so it looks just like an extension of your business. You can add unlimited users to your account, create an instant job page on your website, and include a company careers page to use as a careers link. It's all part of ZipRecruiter's really great service. We used them here, found somebody, and filled that position fast. You will love ZipRecruiter. And now you can try them free. Visit ZipRecruiter.com/techguy to find out why ZipRecruiter's been used by so many big businesses, over 100,000 businesses now, to find the exact right employees for them. ZipRecruiter.com/techguy, free for the next 4 days. ZipRecruiter.com/techguy. 50-plus job boards with one click of the mouse. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy, talking about computers and the internet and cell phones and camcorders and MP3 players and all that jazz. We were talking to John in Irvine before the break. Sorry, John, to have to do that to you, put you on hold there. We ran out of time.
Hey, no worries, Leo.
Thanks for hanging on and understanding how the radio biz works.
Excellent. Yeah.
So you were using Microsoft's built-in voice recognition to dictate.
Yes, Windows speech recognition, WSR.
And it does a pretty good job for you normally?
I love it. When I'm using the Logitech G35 headset with USB connection, it works beautifully in Notepad, Word, and Excel. It's very intuitive. I like the way it learned my voice almost immediately. The problem is it doesn't work at all with chat windows like Skype, web chat, AOL Mail Compose, or Gmail Compose. It gets plenty of volume in there, but it doesn't recognize any words. It's completely non-functional. I called Logitech tech guys who are really nice.
Let me ask you, so your previous headset did do that, did work?
Yes, it did, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Using it for years. Yeah. And so the Logitech guy said, hey, if it works in Windows applications and it doesn't work somewhere else, then it's not our problem.
Yeah, well, that's what's so strange to me, that it did work with this old headset. I mean, I can understand how, because you're using a special Microsoft product, that it's likely that products have to be enabled to work with it. And, of course, Microsoft's products would be, and then maybe some others wouldn't be. Maybe, although Skype is a Microsoft product, maybe some others wouldn't. When you make a phone call with Skype, it can hear you perfectly well, right?
Yes. Well, I didn't own this at that time.
I'd be curious. I mean, try seeing if you can do a test call to Echo 123 is the phone number. That's the Skype call testing service. You get that very nice lady. Yes. Hello, this is Skype's call testing service, and then you record something and you can listen back to it. That's very useful just to see what the quality is like.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just to see. It may be it's not loud enough. It maybe it's a little bit garbled. You did the right thing by getting USB. I believe that USB headsets work better than analog headsets.
Well, that's good. Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, and this G35 is a very nice pair of headsets. It's mostly used by gamers.
Yeah.
But it's very good quality. I don't know. Here's another little thing you could try. There is we discovered this the other day, a site that's free called dictation.io. Dictation.io, and you can dictate text to it, and it will understand it. It uses I believe the Google Chrome. You might have to use Chrome to do it. It uses the Google Chrome text-to-speech routines that are built into the browser. So you can
okay.
See if it works. And it's, by the way, it'd be very handy for you. You can take a variety of different accents, including Australian, Canadian, Indian, Afrikaans. It does German, French, Turkish, but pick U.S. English, and then use Google Chrome and see if it works there. Dictation.io. If it does, then it tells me that everything's okay. And there's something odd going on with those other programs.
Okay, so you believe that it could be a idiosyncrasy of Windows speech recognition.
It could be. So that I would try. By doing this, you're not using Windows anymore. You're using the Chrome speech recognition. It could be because, as Logitech said, this is a Windows feature. It may be that something special has to be enabled in the software. Maybe I'm looking at what the chat room has to say. It's odd that it worked before. It seems like if it worked before and you haven't changed anything, you just changed the hardware, it should continue to work. That's what puzzles me, unless there was an update or. I would check. I would first try the call testing wizard on Skype, Echo 123. See if Skype is hearing you at least.
Will do. Yeah.
And then if it is, and the dictation doesn't work in Skype chat, then I'm baffled. I am baffled.
Dictation.io.
Yeah. You might actually like Dictation.io because it's free voice dictation. You can write long text messages and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. Would there be a third-party speech recognition software?
Oh, there's tons. Yeah. I mean, most people who want to spend money use Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Yeah, I used those in the early days.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. But I would try this Dictation.io. It's pretty impressive. You could always cut and paste.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, but that's kind of a pain. You'd like to be able to dictate right into chat.
Yeah, would be nice.
BattleCam in our chat room says Dragon Dictate does not actually work in his chat room on Internet Explorer, but it does in Firefox. Go figure. So it might be that there are in the business you call it hooks. The hooks are something that you attach onto. They're services you can attach onto in an application. It might be the hooks aren't there in certain applications. It baffles me that it did work. That's what I don't understand. Maybe it's a driver issue. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
I'll try Firefox also. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm sorry I don't have a good answer for you. This is a good case where if you know what's going on and you'd like to help John out, just go to our website, techguylabs.com. Won't be up quite yet because, we just had the call. So James is writing now, and then Josh will work on it. But eventually you'll be able to go to that beginning of hour number 3, and you'll see John's question there, and you'll be able to comment. And if you've got an idea, I'd love it if you'd put it in the comments. I know a lot of people use Dictator Dragon Naturally Speaking and have great results with it. But you shouldn't have to buy something if you've got something that's already working and Windows has something built in. This Dictate.io is pretty cool. It works really surprisingly well. The reason is, of course, that Google has a fairly big operation doing text, what we call speech to text. That's what this is your speech into text. Dragon owned this business for a long time, but Google has lately really come on strong. They hired the guy who wrote the original Dragon to run their operation, and they've got a lot of scientists working very hard on this. So does Microsoft. They bought a company called Learnit and Houseby that did a very good speech-to-text engine. That's why it's built into Windows. And in China, they're working very hard on this. In fact, they may end up being the kings of this because, as you might imagine, in a country where they don't use a Roman alphabet, but they have hand-drawn characters, entry of text is very difficult. It'd be a lot easier if they could have good speech dictation. And so in China, they are working very hard on this. So this was an area that was very hot, turned out to be harder than we thought, especially with the amounts of memory and the power of the computers of that time, 20 years ago. But now that computers are faster and there's lots of free memory, it's on again. In fact, your phone does a pretty darn good job of dictation. Both Apple Siri and Google Speech are really pretty effective. I think we're getting close to the day we all had hoped for back when the movie 2001 came out, where we can actually converse with a computer. Just took us a little longer than we expected. Nate in Las Vegas, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Nate.
Leo, what's up, dude? How are you, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. Hey, one of the things that I really like about you, when I first started listening to you, lots of people call in the radio shows and they say, hey, how are you? And the radio talk show host is like, yeah, whatever, give me your question. So you always take the time to say, hey, how are you? So I think that's really cool that you do that.
Thank you.
But and one of the things, what I wanted to ask you is that I've had this problem with my computer for probably 3 months, and it's existed in IE. Now, I use Mozilla and Chrome most of the time, but this problem has existed in IE, and I'm like, whatever, it's in IE. I hardly ever use it. The only time it ever pops up is when I want to view like a README file for like a software program for the firmware details and stuff like that. But what I've noticed and
this is why we don't want people to say hi, how are you? Because we've just run out of time. Would you hang on just a second? We'll get right back to you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
That was great. We were just sitting in here talking about that.
As a matter of fact, you are going to run out of time. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. And we were talking to, who were we talking to? Was it Nate in Las Vegas? Hi, Nate.
Yes, sir. Hey, Leo.
So what can I do for you?
So I had this problem that when I launched Internet Explorer, I get this error that pops up. No matter what pages I browse through, it says it has an unhandled exception error.
Oh.
Now, that existed in Internet Explorer by itself. It never existed in any of my browsers or anything. Now, that existed for probably about 4 months. I've uninstalled ActiveX because it was an ActiveX error. But just today, which is what prompted me to call you the first time I've ever called.
Does it say, by the way, the unhandled exception is in a third-party module?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. It just says it's an unhandled exception error, and it has to shut down, click OK to terminate.
Yeah.
And I click OK to terminate it, but before I did that, I launched my task manager, and I looked at the services. And in the services, once I click OK to terminate it, the service stays up. So that's what looks kind of weird to me. You know, in Internet Explorer, all sorts of quirky things happen, you know, but it happened in Mozilla Firefox today. And
yeah. So let me tell you what this is, of course. When you write computer software, you frequently will write in a little code that checks for errors, right? Sometimes these errors are called exceptions, things that you didn't expect that happened. And sometimes you can handle it, you can survive it. And so the code will have a reasonable response. It might pop up a window that says, oh, we don't have that plugin. Would you like to download it? Things like that. But every once in a while, you get an exception that is unexpected. And that's what happened to you. And so that's why it's unhandled. There's no code in there. In fact, that's the way you write the program. You say, well, if this, then do that. If this, then do that. And at the very end, it says, well, if it was none of those, then pop up this unhandled exception error and close the program. In other words, something happened that I can't deal with, and I can't go on.
But why do you think that it would migrate from IE?
Well, I think there's a couple of possibilities. Frequently, this kind of error means that malware is installed. Malware is often poorly written. And malware can create an exception that the Internet Explorer just doesn't know anything about. For instance, you could put a browser toolbar in there that doesn't work quite right, and it sends an error message back to Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer says, I don't know what's going on. So that's one possibility. And if malware gets on your system, it's not unusual for it to further infect your system and maybe even infect what we call a dynamic linked library. Programs on Windows often, in order to save space, will share libraries. So Windows comes with a number of DLLs, or dynamically linked libraries, that are shared by multiple programs that do things like draw windows and so forth. If the malware infected one of your DLLs, a DLL that's in common, for instance, between Internet Explorer and Mozilla, well, this would be exactly the kind of error message you would get. The fact that it's spreading worries me. that often means that there's something spreading throughout your system. Now, it also could be that there is a safe, normal Windows included DLL that's on a part of your hard drive that's starting to become flaky.
Yeah.
And that might do it too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ring the bell and sound the alarm and say, "Oh my goodness, you have malware." That's that's kind of everybody. That's the first thing you go to, right? Because it's so common on Windows. But it's certainly one possibility. Another possibility is a corrupted DLL. Are any other programs giving you the errors?
Not at all. Not at all. That's why, like, when I first saw it, it was with Internet Explorer, and I said, whatever, it's Internet Explorer.
Right, because you don't use it, so you don't really care. I would take a look at any add-ons you have in Internet Explorer. Make sure they're all add-ons you expect, that you don't have some weird ones that might have been installed. You know what happens, and we've talked about this many times now on the show, because it happens so often, is people go to download sites like CNET's download.com, and inadvertently, when what they think they're downloading is, the program they were looking for, but CNET has wrapped it in a downloader that installs other stuff. Adware.
Oh, yep. Toolbars.
Yeah. So sometimes it's toolbars. Sometimes it's replaces your homepage, replaces your search engine. And sometimes this stuff can really confuse a browser and cause these exceptions. It may not, strictly speaking, be malware, but it may be an add-on that's breaking IE. It may have extended itself to Mozilla, too. So I would look at Mozilla extensions and IE add-ons. Make sure that everything there is something you expected. I would go to programs and features and check all the programs that are installed. Remove any programs you don't expect that look like adware. You'll see them. The good news is that in order to avoid the label malware, they really are malware, but in order to avoid the label malware, they do give you an uninstall features. If you can't uninstall it, it's malware.
Yeah.
So I would look in your browser extensions. Worst case, you can reset Internet Explorer. That might get rid of it. You can reset Mozilla as well, or start them in safe mode. But starting them in safe mode starts them without any extensions, and then see what happens. Is it the same pages that cause the errors, or is it just kind of random?
It's totally freaking random. Like Netflix, Facebook. When I went to your Twitter page today, right before I called you, I went to your Twitter page, and I went to tweet you, and it popped up, and I was like, man, that's what I'm calling Leo.
Yeah. So we were pretty sure Twitter is not a problem. So it sounds to me like there is an extension or something installed. And it could also just be, a DL. As I said, a DLL has gotten a little flaky because the part of the hard drive it's written on. A lot of times, the computer problems are caused just by the fact that hard drives over time wear. They become less reliable. And, the hard drives where all this stuff is stored, and if the computer's having a hard time reading a part of the hard drive, everything may operate fine except for one little bit, and that thing's throwing an exception which the browser can't handle. So there's a lot of other things it could be, but I would always start with looking through the add-ons in a browser. There is an option to start up IE without add-ons, kind of a safe mode. I would try that. And I would even look at the add-ons. Check, see what's on there, because sometimes you get stuff on there you didn't expect. Hey, I appreciate the call, Nate. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your patience. Sorry I had to put you on hold. We're going to take more calls in just a little bit. 8888 Ask Leo. All the stuff that we talk about is on our website, techguylabs.com. Coming up in just a little bit, our gadget guy, Dick DeBartolo, with Mad Magazine's Maddest Writer, with a gadget of the week. And all of that is just ahead on the Tech Guy program. I guess I have a little more time. I could at least start a call. Hi, Cy in Long Beach. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Cy. How are ya?
You're the bomb. I love when you sing and cyber dance the way you do.
Uh-oh. Don't encourage him.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The first one is, I want to get rid of XP, so I have a old Dell 6000, and I want to put Ubuntu on it. What do you think of Ubuntu?
All right, so a lot of people who have XP are looking at alternates, and Ubuntu is a very good alternate. It's a free operating system that's kept up to date. It's based on Linux. It is a Linux operating system, and I love it, but it is a little challenging. How geeky are you?
Well, I used to be a computer tech for LAUSD.
Then you can do it, Cy. Ubuntu is the way. ubuntu.com. I love it. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Oh, he likes my singing and dancing. Cy, can you do Oppo Gangnam Style? What?
Oh,
what?
God. So there.
Uh-huh.
Because some people are like, don't sing, don't dance.
Oppo Gangnam. I can even do the dance. Do you know?
That's about right.
I'm light on my feet. Sort of. Our show today brought to you by ShareFile.com. You know I use ShareFile during the production of this very program. I've talked about it before. It's from my friends at Citrix. They do great business software. One of the things they noted was that most business emails these days have attachments. And what do you hear Leo Laporte say all the time? I even said it today. Don't open email attachments. They're dangerous. But every time I say that, somebody who says, hey, but I'm in business. How am I going to send that presentation, that contract? How am I going to email people if I can't send them the invoice? I got to send attachments. And that's when I tell them about ShareFile. ShareFile is the safe way to send files via email. Safe because it's not an attachment, so it doesn't carry viruses. Secure because you control the attachment, so you control when they can download it, who can download it, for how long. It's also secure because you're not sending it through the public internet. It's encrypted, HTTPS, point to point, so you don't ever have to worry about this. In fact, ShareFile is so secure, it's HIPAA compliant with regulations in a great many industries. I want you to try it out. I'll show you how I use ShareFile. I'm always sending files to radio stations, advertisements, bumpers, promos, that kind of thing. So instead of sending them an attachment, because a lot of times it just bounces back, they're too big, I'll send them a link via ShareFile. Now you notice one of the things you'll see on my ShareFile page is you have users with various permissions. So it is possible to set people up with permissions to download anytime, to get an alert, for instance, if I upload files. And by the way, I don't have to ever upload files directly because I use the ShareFile synchronization. So I just put the files in the folder and ShareFile automatically copies it to the ShareFile store where I can access it anytime. If I want to send a file, all I do is I select the file, press the send button. You can use an Outlook extension. It makes it look just like an email attachment, but it's not. You can create the email on the ShareFile website or do what I do and send a link, see? And you can control that link. You can say, email me when the item's been downloaded. Require recipients to enter name and email before downloading. I could say how long they can download it for. Never, a week, a year, a month, a day. How many times they can download it. And then I'll get a secure link that I can copy and paste in my email. Let me show you what happens when they click that link in their email. They're going to get a custom ShareFile page that's clean, that's simple, has my logo on it, a download button. They don't have to sign up for anything. They don't have to do anything. It's just easy to understand. It's sharefile.com. I want you to try it free for 30 days. Visit sharefile.com. Now, this is a little tricky because there are 3 different links on ShareFile that you can click to get a free trial, but I want you to use the one at the top of the page that says podcast listeners. Click here. Click that link. And then when it asks you, I want you to tell them you heard it on the Tech Guy. That's the offer code. TECHGUY, one word. Pick your industry, too, because they'll customize it so that it's, legal in various industries. They've got customizations that fit construction, legal, manufacturing, music, nonprofits, photography, and more. ShareFile.com. Click the link at the top of the homepage and enter the word Tech Guy, all one word, for our 30-day free trial. You will love it. ShareFile.com. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. I want to finish up. We were talking with Cy. He has Windows XP, and he says, I know. And a week from Tuesday, Microsoft's going to never update it after that. And while I have mentioned, and we have an article on our site, how to use XP safely, there are ways to do it. It's never going to be quite as safe as using an up-to-date operating system. So the problem is, if you have XP, you probably have a pretty old machine. It could be as old as 13 years old. That's how long XP's been around. And a 13-year-old machine isn't going to be able to run any modern operating system. It might have enough horsepower, too. Windows 8 actually is pretty lightweight. But there won't be software drivers for some of the hardware, things like that. So what are your options? Well, you can continue to run XP. You can buy a new machine, or you could put another operating system on that computer. And that's why he mentioned Ubuntu. Ubuntu is one of many flavors, hundreds of different flavors, of a free operating system called Linux. Now, probably that makes people nervous when I say it's free. It's like, well, how could it be free? Well, it's part of this movement we call the open source movement, where people who really love computers, who are really talented programmers, and they kind of want to give back, they're more interested in building a reputation for themselves than they are in money, contribute to projects freely. They're open source because not only can anybody contribute, but you can download the actual programming code and modify it to your heart's content for free in most cases. Linux was created by a Finnish graduate student in 1992, I think. His name was Linus Torvalds, and he was a computer science student, and he wanted a better operating system for teaching. In his school in Finland, they were using an operating system called Minix that was he thought it was terrible. And so he called this Linus's Minix, or Linux. And he did an interesting thing. He said, I'm going to keep the copyright. I'm going to keep the name Linux. That way I can make sure if it has the name that it's approved. But I'm going to give away the source code. I'm going to let anybody contribute. Now, this was at the very beginning of the internet. And so he kind of piggybacked on something amazing that was already happening. People from all over the world were able to download and work on this code as a highly distributed project. And that's exactly what happened. Hundreds, probably thousands of people contributed to Linux to make it a better and better operating system. Software was written to run on top of Linux. Software was taken from the GNU project, which was another open source project, put on top of Linux. Companies formed to take the Linux kernel, the heart of the operating system, put a bunch of additional useful software on top of it, wrap it up in an installer. They call those balls of things, those are called distributions, and there are hundreds of Linux distributions, each with their own name, some of them silly like Red Hat, Mandrake, Fedora, and Ubuntu. Now, you may say, well, it can't be, free. It can't be any. Is it going to be like one of those things I see advertised on late night TV? No, it's very reliable, very stable. In fact, you use Linux. You use it every single day. Most of the web runs on servers powered by Linux. That's how reliable it is. Android phones are based on Linux. All Android phones run Linux. That's the operating system. you're probably using Linux all the time. Maybe you don't even know it. So you can get a free version of Linux. There are many, as I mentioned. Ubuntu is a good one. ubuntu.com. You can download it and install it on your XP machine. In fact, I would wipe out all of XP and just install it. It doesn't run Windows software very well. It does, in fact, run it, but not very well. But that's okay because it has an entire Office suite available for it for free, LibreOffice. It has all the software, Photoshop clone called the GIMP. There's all the software you'd want is free and available on the Linux platform. All of that's well and good. Here's the downside. And this is why I asked Si, you know about computers? And he does. Linux has never really been for real average people. It's really designed by and used by computer enthusiasts. And so you'll use Linux for a while and then you'll run up against something that's just weird. And unlike Windows, there's so few people that use it as a desktop operating system. It's sometimes hard to figure out how to get around these roadblocks. Things don't work right. I'll give you an example. I was running a version of Ubuntu, and I decided to use the open source version of Google's Chrome browser. It's called Chromium on it. And then I updated Ubuntu, got the newest version, and Chromium stopped working. It wouldn't run. Now, I was able to figure out what was wrong. There was a library. This is the kind of thing that happens with Linux. There was a library that Chromium needed. Remember I was talking about those DLLs? Linux has them too. There was a library that Chromium needed that the people who make Ubuntu decided didn't really need to be included in the new version. So they took it off. So I had to find the library, download a copy of it, put it on my operating system, and then Chromium worked. It's not the kind of thing you want to do, and it's certainly not the kind of thing people who are used to running Windows XP want to do. So my general recommendation is that Ubuntu is a good choice if you're an enthusiast and you like messing around with them, tinkering around with computers. You enjoy that. It's great for kids. It's a great way for kids to learn how Linux and Unix-based operating systems work. These are the fundamental workhorse operating systems of the whole internet. So that's a great thing to learn. But for the average person who just wants to surf a little bit, open the email once in a while, might not be the best choice. You can go out and get a Chromebook, by the way. This is a good choice for a lot of people if you don't need to do, heavy-duty photo editing or video editing. Chromebooks are only a few $100. They work wonderfully, and guess what? They're built on Linux. But they hide all the ugly details from you. Google manages it in such a way that there's never any problem like I had. So I'm a fan. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great gift that Linus Torvalds gave the world by giving away his operating system. He, to this day, gets to say this is Linux, this isn't, because he retained the trademark. So if it says it's Linux, Linus is approved. Yes, this is an approved version of the kernel. This is done properly. And he's very serious about doing that. It's one of the reasons it is a quality operating system. But it isn't for... It's for people who like to mess with computers. If you're, and you know who you are, if you're somebody who doesn't want to mess with it, I just want to surf, just want to buy something on Amazon, send an email to my kids, look at some websites. If that's you, you don't want to mess with it, probably not a good choice. I think the Chromebooks are a good choice. I think a new version of Windows would be fine. Windows 8 if you can afford it. A Macintosh, if you've got even more money, that's a good choice. It's only for the enthusiasts that I'd recommend Ubuntu. So I wanted to make that clear. There are other choices too, and if you're a serious Linux enthusiast, you'll know Ubuntu may not be the version that you want, especially on older hardware. There's an X Ubuntu that's designed for older hardware. There's other Linuxes that are designed for older hardware. If you browse around, you'll find other choices that might be better for that old machine. Jethro, Carbondale, Illinois. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Jethro.
How you doing, sir? Welcome
I am well.
To Illinois land, an enthusiastic amateur here.
How's the weather in Illinois land?
It's cool and damp.
I heard it was kind of still pretty snowy in Chicago.
We missed out on that. We had a few spots of it a couple of days ago, but it's sort of just wet and miserable now.
Winter will end someday.
It's quite pretty around here when it does end.
Yeah, I know. It's beautiful. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to run out of time, so hang on, okay? I'm going to take a break. The GizWiz is going to come up, and then I will get to you after the GizWiz, Jethro. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Tomorrow and Monday will be in the 60s. Well, now we're talking. Warming up in Chicagoland. I'm trying to decide, Battle Cam. Yeah, this phone has the weirdest light bright case. It's so strange. I guess I should get it, shouldn't I? Can I get it on Amazon? HTC One M8 case. They make search so hard by not giving it a good new name. Let's see here. HTC One M8 case. This light bright case is wild. I guess I can't get it on it. I have to get it through HTC. Let me show you. HTC One Light Bright. What if I search for light bright? Yep. I'm not the only one who thinks it looks like a light bright. So this case has holes in it. And then somehow the phone knows that where to light up I don't really understand how this can work. I don't know about battery life yet. I'll have to give you a review. Here's a video of it.
Hey there, everybody. Phil here.
See how it's got holes poked in it?
The Dot View case for the brand new HTC One, the M8. So here it is, kind of a basic case on the back side.
I don't like cases. It hides this beautiful phone. But I do love this light bright thing.
So you can get to the ports. You can still shoot with the camera. Really, the cool thing about this case, though, is the front, is the Dot View. So let's take a look at it. There's a little magnet right under that tiny little HTC logo, and that enables this mode. And now you see a clock and the weather. That's some really cool stuff. Now, here's what it looks like. This is neat. Kind of an
Isn't that strange?
It's kind of adorable.
So here's what it's like when you get a phone call, and you can swipe up on the case or swipe down to...
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's time, my friends, not for singing, but for my good friend Dick DeBartolo, Mad's maddest writer. We call him the Gizwiz because each and every week he brings us a wacky gadget or two. Hi, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
I'm great. Did you see I was playing a little bit with this HTC One phone, the new M8, and I was showing you the case, which is kind of wacky. It has little holes, pinholes in the case.
I like that. I'm watching you do that.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
And then the lights shine through it. It looks a little bit like that kids game Light Bright, you know, where you put the little pegs in and you say what time it is.
I know.
They call it the Dot View case. I don't know.
It's a case. Oh, I just drilled 33 holes through the back of my Galaxy Fold.
No, it won't work.
Doesn't look the same.
That won't work. Anyway, that's my gadget. What's your gadget?
Oh, well, my gadget is not crazy.
Oh, you say so, but I'll be the judge of that.
You know, over like almost 8 years of GizWiz, we've done lots of coffee makers. I had the Capresso burr grinder. We both had the AeroPress. You had the Atomic Fusion coffee maker and the kitty litter coffee, whatever that's.
It's made with sand.
It's made with sand. But all these years, we never did a K-cup coffee maker.
Oh, the Kurig, the Kurig coffee maker.
The Kurig, yes. Yeah. The one of the newer ones, newer by like 9 months or so, is the Elite K45. And a couple of neat things about that, you can make 3 different sizes of coffee: 6 ounce, 8 ounce, 10 ounce. But what is really neat, and again, our amazing chat room. I was talking about the Keurig with Chad, and I was saying I bought some Entenmann's coffee. I bought some coffee cups from not Capresso, but from Gavalia, and Chad said you can buy coffee cups from other companies. And the chat room said Keurig lost the patent on the K-cup.
Oh, you're not talking about the cups like a cup that you drink out of. You're talking about those little pods that you put in the Keurig.
Yes, exactly.
That's right, because other companies make these now.
Exactly.
Nespresso makes pod, but I thought they were putting chips in the pods to keep you from
They are coming out with a new, now that they realize they have totally screwed up.
They have
They're
copy
coming
protection.
out with another K-cup maker. But for now, you can use them from anybody.
That's good. So get it before they figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's companies making biodegradable K-cups in case you were worried about waste. And, of course, you can buy K-cups that are refillable with your own coffee. So this is really an easy way to make coffee in about 2 minutes. So I like it for that. I still grind my own beans in the morning. And my favorite so far is something called Green Mountain Dark Magic Extra Bold, because it's very, very strong coffee. So you can easily make 10 ounces from the 1 K-cup and get 2 full
such a
cups of
cheapskate.
strong coffee.
You're a cheapskate.
Well, no, but I think about other people saying, well, you know what? I can't afford that. So I try to find...
Is it more expensive because you have to buy the little cups?
You know, even Maya was saying there are so many deals online. Right. Normally, it comes to 50 cents a cup. But
it's
if
cheaper
you buy
than Starbucks.
Way cheaper. Yeah.
You know, Green Mountain is Kurig. You know that, right?
Say it again?
Green Mountain is
I did not know
Kurig.
that until the chat room.
Yeah.
They tell me everything.
Yeah, everything, yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so the coffee that I got, the coffee pot I got is the Elate K45. It's $99.99 on Amazon. There's a cheaper one, but it has almost no features. So the K45 has a fair number of features for under $100.
I still like. You introduced me to what I consider the best
AeroPress, right?
The best coffee maker of all time, and I'm not alone. A lot of highfalutin coffee fanatics think that the AeroPress. I thought you were joking. It's made by the people who make the Aerobee fake frisbee, but it's $25, and it makes the best cup of coffee I've ever had.
It's a little labor intensive with the filters and the measuring the water and stuff, but it makes a heck of a cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, I have several. We use them all the time. We would even travel with them. Dickie D, he's at gizwiz.biz. Go to his website for details on all the gadgets he talks about on our podcast, on our radio show, and of course on ABC and everywhere else he goes. And while you're there, click the link to the What the Heck Is It contest. A chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine if you can identify his kooky gadget. Will you mention or put a link to the AeroPress next to the Kurig story just so that
absolutely
people can choose the one they want?
No, yes, I will do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Dick. Stick around. The Giz Fizz coming up. Jethro, thank you for hanging on. Carbondale, Illinois. And you have a G4 Cube, is that true?
The G4 Cube, I got it in an auction.
Wow, that was before the current Mac Pro. That was Apple's most beautiful computer, the G4 Cube. I had one too. I bought it the last day of production. I don't have it anymore. Not a whole lot you can do with it. There are plans online for turning it into an aquarium.
I was hoping to turn it into a music server.
Okay, remember, because it's a G4, that means it's running the old chips, the Power PC chips, so you can't run any new version of the Macintosh operating system. Did it come with operating system disks?
It did not, but I had a friend who loaded me up with what I needed to get me going.
Awesome.
I hear the problem is in interfacing with iTunes.
Yeah, you can't run iTunes. iTunes didn't exist when this was a computer.
So you suggest Linux?
Well, yeah, there's a few things you can do. If you put Linux on it, now it might be a little challenging to find a Linux that'll work on it, but you probably can. Then there are programs on Linux that will run an iTunes-compatible server. So all the as long as the songs aren't copy protected, all the songs will be available. It'll look like it's running on iTunes to any other device. A lot of people use network-attached storage devices to do this exact thing, and they're running Linux as well.
What percentage of my music do you think is not DRM?
Well, you'll have to be the judge of that. Apple stopped putting well, I shouldn't say Apple. The music industry allowed Apple to stop putting copy protection on stuff you bought at iTunes a few years ago. If it's just an AAC file, usually that means it's not copy protected. Do you have a regular Mac?
I got the most recent one is a i7 chip.
Okay, so one way to if you think you might have some copy protected stuff, And one way to find out is to deauthorize your iTunes and try to play it. And if everything plays, then it's not copy protected. But if some of it doesn't, it is copy protected. You can also tell. iTunes will sort it and just sort by kind, and it'll tell you if it's copy protected. iTunes Match will allow you to get rid of the copy protected stuff and replace it with unprotected music. And that's what everybody should do. If you still have old copy protected music from your iTunes purchases of years gone by, $25, you pay it once. It's good for a year, but you're only going to need it for a little bit, to replace all of that copy protected music with high quality, unprotected AAC files. What I would do is open iTunes on your Mac, the more recent Mac, not the Cube, and sort the music by kind, find all the copy protected stuff, join iTunes Match and upload everything. And then you can delete the copy protected stuff and replace it by downloading it again, and it will all be unprotected. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guide. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, the Tech Guy is just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows now on the Twit Netcast Network, and you'll find them all at twit.tv. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPad on iPad Today. You get your daily dose of tech news from Tech News Today, and our weekly roundtable show, This Week in Tech. It's all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next time with another great Tech Guy podcast. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.